Hi everyone. In this video, we are going to talk about some of the Jira fundamentals that we're going to be going through in this course. Specifically, we're going to talk about how to create a project in Jira and also a little bit of the background between the different board types. So in Jira, you have what's called a Scrum board and you have a Kanban board. I often get asked the question, when to use what board? Kind of some interesting terminology behind Scrum. It was actually originally used in rugby because it was basically saying the formation of players. The Scrum team was really chosen because it's all about teamwork, which is a really foundational piece of Jira, which is really what is focused on in Agile. So essentially, Scrum comes from rugby because it's an Agile software development framework, and it's based on the principles that you would use in the actual game. You would use Scrum boards more for that temporary work, working through the 2 to 4 week planning session, which we'll get into more when I go through using Jira. Now, when it comes to Kanban boards, these are a little bit different because this practice actually came from Lean Six Sigma. And really, Kanban boards are more of the operational piece, work that you're going to be doing continuously, work that doesn't necessarily have a start and end date like a Scrum board does. So really, Kanban is more to promote transparency and making sure that everyone can see the workflow and see if there are any bottlenecks in the workflow. A great example of this that one of my professors used in college is he had us line up and basically we did a manufacturing exercise where one person would put lids on a cup, one person would take straws out for the cups, and so on. What we found for this process is that it was faster to put lids on the cup than it was to actually unwrap the straws. And what this showed was we needed to dedicate more resources on our operational line to ripping open straws and putting them on cups versus dedicating too many resources to lids. So a Kanban board can really show you what tasks are getting completed quickly and then what tasks are taking a little bit longer. And what we're going to do now that we've had that background, we're going to go into Jira and we're going to talk about how to create these boards. So we're going to start with a new project. So we're going to create our project here. And we'll start with Kanban first. So once we have it, and we like to use this template, it makes it a little bit easier to lay the groundwork so you're not having to spend too much time going through what's your work in progress, tracking everything. So we'll use this template. And also we'll want to decide if we want our project to be team managed or company managed. Essentially, this is going to be better if you have a small team, think like a startup. Typically, company managed would be if you're in a large enterprise. I worked at a bank in IT project management. All of their projects were company managed because they have very specific controls. They have to follow data security, and they wanted to make everything very centralized and owned by the Jira admin versus anyone hopping into Jira and doing things like at a startup you would see. So for this example, we're going to go with a team managed project. And we'll give it a name. We'll get our key ID. And here's our template, Kanban. And then here's our type, team managed. We're going to create our project. And from here, we can start adding our cards. I really like hitting the C key on my keyboard because it's really fast and it pulls up this creating an issue tab right here. So we'll just put example, task 1. We can automatically assign it to me. We'll talk a little bit about labels and custom fields in some of our additional trainings. This is more of just that first introduction. So we've created a task. One thing that will be helpful to see is this configure board tab right here on the right. What we want to do is we want to go here. And from here, we can actually get into more detail about if we want to add a column, maybe we want to say ready for testing, and we can put that there. So these are just some examples for Kanban and kind of talking about moving work through the different boards. Next, we're going to go and we're going to create a new Scrum project. And for this one, we'll also go with a team managed board. And as we talked about, Scrum is different than Kanban because we're wanting to really time box our work in that 2 to 4 week sprint period. So what we'll do first is we're going to go to our backlog. We can either go from this button right here, or we can use the backlog button up here. And we're going to start creating cards right here. So we'll just go task 1. And then from here, once we have a few cards, we'll go ahead and drag and drop up here to start our first sprint. We'll click this blue button right here, start our sprint. And we can give it a sprint name. We can choose our duration. 2 weeks is definitely a best practice. And then we can put what our goal is going to be. So now we're going to start our sprint. And let's say that we're doing pretty well. We have 2 tasks completed. Up here, it'll say that we have 9 days remaining. It just assumes that we aren't working on the weekend. So it assumes 10 days, and then it takes the day off today, giving us 9 days total. We're going to complete our sprint early just so we can see what it looks like. It'll let us know that task 3 has not been completed yet, so we can either move it to a new sprint or the backlog. I would recommend the backlog, and the reason being is if the task wasn't completed in the first sprint, we want to know why. And if we go to the backlog, we can do more analysis, more backlog refinement, and really get to the root cause of why this task wasn't completed. Did it need additional documentation? Were there not enough team resources? Just so we're really getting to the root cause of that. And then we're going to go ahead and complete our sprint, and we'll see our task right here. So that is really an overview of when to use Kanban, really for that operational work, limiting work in progress, versus when to use Scrum for those 2 to 4 week time boxed projects that are very high priority, very focused, very targeted. So that was our overview, and thank you for watching.